Penny, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third. Jordan Belfort.
What is going on, Degen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Valero Texas Open. As usual, he's back. My favorite Canadian from a 2-week hiatus. Tyler, how are you this week, my friend?
Doing well, Kenny. I'm excited to be back, man. I can't remember the last time I was gone for 2 weeks, but want to say a big thank you to our main resident fill-in, our boy, Ryan Baroff. Appreciate him. Did a great job on the pod, as always. Love having him on. We'll have to do like a three-man booth at some point, maybe for one of the majors. We always have him filling in for one of us. You'll probably have some weeks off coming up at some point here as well, but we'll get him back on for a three-man booth. Gonna get into it. Gonna talk about the match play, of course, all the other things going on, and then get into the Valero. But before we do, want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by DraftKings. Have one very special final offer there for you guys related to basketball later on. And then, of course, our friends over at fantasynational.com. Head on over to fantasynational.com/FGD. Get yourself 20% off your first month and get after all the tools that we're using within the show. Kenny, Scotty Scheffler. I mean, man, like this guy just can't lose anymore. We used to say the SS was for shitty Sundays. Now it's for superstar, Sunday Slayer. I don't know what you want to put on this guy, but he can't lose, and it doesn't matter the format, the type, the course, the place, anything. This guy is dominant right now. And now we finally have a new world number one that looks like a world number one with wins to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, first off, let me say I almost missed this week myself. If I sound sort of funny, it's because I have a massive toothache on the left side of my face. It was bothering the hell out of me. So I might sound a little funny today, but I couldn't miss it. I had to be back with my boy Tambo, Scotty Scheffler. Pretty impressive stuff. It's amazing what he's done in the last 6 weeks, right? I mean, he's made $6.2 million. His career earnings almost doubled in a month and a half span. And I think him being number one makes sense. I mean, you know, he's the best player in the world at this moment in time. There's really no doubt about that at all in my book. You know, 3 of his last 5 or 6 events he's won that use, and they're not like cupcake events.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I have no problem with Scotty being number one. Pretty amazing stuff. I actually didn't end up watching on Sunday. I went a little wild Saturday night again. And then I woke up and DJ had lost. And that was my like only hope betting wise. Now on DraftKings, I only lost like $12. Not bad for match play. I was happy about that, as you can believe it. But yeah, I thought Saturday was really riveting golf, though. Saturday was a lot of fun in the morning. Like Kisner, that McNeely battle, the Kisner comeback. A lot of really interesting stuff on Saturday. It was a lot of good golf. It was a lot of fun to watch. The most fun I probably had watching the match play in all my years watching the match play. And then Scotty, of course, doing his thing. I thought, you know, maybe the pressure would get to him on Sunday where he knew he would be the number one golfer in the world. Nope, did not get to him. He was just A-OK. Beating Kisner, another bulldog out there, doing his thing. Pretty impressive stuff by Scotty. What'd you think of the event? How'd you do this week?
Yeah, a couple other things about it. Like results-wise, it wasn't the greatest for me, just based on, you know, it's game theory week. I got after it, played the same idea everyone else did. But if you don't have the right guys, you're not going to end up in the right spot. My boy Big T went on, you know, took up where I left off last week, and RPS has just been on a heater with golf. He absolutely crushed it. I'll talk more on that later when we do the promo and stuff. But just looking at the golf, like you said, so a couple things on it. One with Scotty, that's why, like, before the last matches started, I said, like, you can just turn it off right now. DJ doesn't give a fuck, so Connor's gonna go. He literally gifted it to him, and I think at the end, Connor, like, he was getting pissed off. He's like, Connors, I gave this to you, man. Like, I wanted to get the fuck out of here. Now we're gonna be here after Scotty closes the door on the previous matchup. So there was that, and then Scotty, you and I talked about this more so me just pointing it out. It wasn't hating on the guy, just saying, like, he went through some of the stuff. Even his win at Phoenix, he missed that putt and had to do it in a playoff. Even in his win, the most recent one before this, where he went down the stretch, he had those drives that were wayward at the end, but he still managed to make these all-world pars and close the door. This was a different spot altogether. I just felt like, look, I could see the headline a mile away. Hovland couldn't do it. Morikawa couldn't do it. When like JT back a while back when it was like JT knew and said he couldn't sleep the night before, all these things at that time anyway. Like it's tough to get there, but Scotty's had plenty of downs even within his ups. So it was nice to see. Good for him, man. Obviously a great guy. Just him. You see all the emotion at the end. His dad talking to him about how much he loves him, not for his golf, but for the person that he is. You can just tell, right? So awesome job for Scotty. Other side of it though, man, I don't care what people say about this. It has to be, and I know it's only once a year and I'm fine with it. It was some great golf. It has to be the worst ratings of the year. Like it's literally the worst. To like Sunday, like even people had won the tournaments for DraftKings. There's only so many bets you can do. Like there was just, it's not fun. And they
Sunday's not great, but Saturday was really interesting.
I loved it. I don't know. Too.
I don't know how they can promote Saturday more. Because that's when everyone should watch.
That's what I was gonna say though. Like, is there a way? I know it's still the weekend, but the way they break it out, it just has to end this way. And
I think
even with both matches,
like on Sunday, they need to do something different. They need to bring back like the Elite Eight and have the bottom 6 guys duel off for like big money or something.
I know that's why it's tough. I understand.
Yeah, they have to do something else to bring Sunday more into the fold than just have those 2 matches.
Sunday's just dead. You don't have to watch it either. I literally, like I had it up in the background like I always do. I enjoyed some family time, had a barbecue, did some stuff. It was still up. I was watching it, but I'm saying you kind of don't have to, and it's not that riveting. And still, I posted a tweet like same old, because Mayo tweeted out like how can we not see every shot? Everyone was asking. I had the tweet from 3 years ago when I said the same thing. Like we're 3 years later and you still aren't getting every shot with only 2 matches and 4 golfers on the course. To me, that's incredible that in the wrong way that we still can't see all the shots. And who cares? Like I said, wasn't that important or great, but there's stuff on the line for these guys. I know DJ definitely did not give a fuck about $167,000. So that was for damn sure. So probably the easiest one of the week. Anything else for you from that aspect? I mean, I didn't have too much else to talk on this.
Pretty impressive play from guys like Maverick McNeely, who did not make it past the group round, but man, he looked good. He was 2-1, lost in the playoff. And then we had pretty amazing stuff from DJ's looking a lot better. It looks like he's back. Finau with 8 birdies in his last match, looking a little bit better. Abe Answer looking dominant in that type of play. Pete Dye course. Some guys who have been sort of on the down slope looked a little bit back up. And I don't know if it was a format. I don't know if it'll correlate to what they do in stroke play, but it was good to see especially for Answer, Finau, and DJ.
We'll talk about 2 of those guys this week, Answer and Finau. I think they're both interesting plays here when we get into the Valero. But a couple more thoughts, actually, I had you just sparked my memory. One, Willie Z said he got a new putter, and it certainly looked like it. My God, this guy could not miss. He was
that match with Kevin Na was sick, dude.
Yeah,
that match with Kevin Na was excellent.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like it was battle. They were not talking to each other. You saw the Rom Brooksy match, no words spoken.
Yeah.
That Saturday was amazing. It was just really, really fun golf to watch. Willie Z walking in putts against Kisner, like that little 8-footer he had to tie.
Didn't he walk it in on Na? Didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant on Na. He knocked it in. It was entertaining. Saturday was really, really fun to watch. They just got to figure out Sunday. I don't know what they can do on Sunday to change it, but they got to do something. Make it where like you get the last 6 who made the Elite 8 to play, do something, and the top 2 get to pick their bracket. I don't know.
It feels like Sunday's underwhelming no matter what's on the line.
They don't something.
Care, like anyone watching doesn't really care that the first match is for like 600,000 or whatever. Or I think it was maybe more. I don't even remember, but all I know is that they start on a Wednesday. And that is what it is too, but at least that's it during the week. When you get to the weekend, we need to find a way to beef it up and make it just a little bit better somehow. I don't know how they do it, but for me, that was the takeaway. DJ, to your point, looking really good. And I don't care, again, like I said, about the consolation match. He didn't care because there's nothing to care about. 60 FedEx Cup points and 167,000 ain't going to move the needle for our boy DJ, but he does look like he's coming into form, getting ready to get back to Augusta National Golf Club. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because now you got to think, Kenny, we're looking a week ahead. Pricing should be out any day. I think with what they've loaded into the lobby, they want to fill that $15, $315K Millie Maker. I'm assuming it comes out some point this week. Hopefully before Thursday is my guess, but either way, You got Cam Smith, who won the Players. You got Scotty, who's hot on everybody's mind. You're going to have, and we're going to talk about this week, Rory and Spieth are both here.
What about the Sunday Red there, brother?
Yeah,
that's
another conversation.
What about the Sunday Red?
You think he plays?
I mean, he hasn't said he hasn't. I think he's testing it out. I think there's definitely a chance. There's not a 0% chance. I think there is a chance he plays. I mean, we saw the video of him at Medalist. There's rumors that he's going to be at Augusta this week, Mr. Tiger Woods.
I think Sobel said tomorrow. I think he said, I'd like to be a fly on the wall tomorrow for more reasons than normal. Sounds like that. Rick posted out earlier, Rick Gaiman, saying like, don't overreact. He's obviously going to go there and check it out, kind of see if he can walk it. But I love our guy, Nelson Adcock, owner and run of Cut Sweats. If you don't have Cut Sweats, you definitely want to have that. It's great.
Yeah, you want
a lot of season left.
Yes.
Love having Cut Sweats. It's great. Does all kinds of stuff with it. But I think one of the things he said is, and it would be so Tiger, like he's on the website, he's in the field. Why wouldn't he just show up the day, not say shit, not announce until he gets to the course for real when he has to take his first interview kind of thing, and just say, yeah, what did you expect? I wasn't off the site. I'm here to play, and just do his thing. And man, I don't know, like this guy, it really does feel like he's going to play. But look, if he doesn't, I forget who else said this, but I couldn't agree more. I think it's a certainty that he plays the Open this year, right, at St. Andrews, where it's just a much flatter course, easier walk in. I'm not saying he can't walk this one. I think there's a much better chance than people think. I'm optimistic. But if he doesn't, at least he's getting back out there. And that was my problem, not to, keep the rant going, but to finish it. When everyone, now everyone's putting him back on the pedestal, as they should. But when the guy literally had his first interview after everything that happened, they want to badger his ass for a police report. Like, just be thankful the guy's alive and we might have a chance to see this guy in action again. You don't have to put athletes on a pedestal. I'm not saying that, or Tiger Woods, but the guy is the biggest thing in golf of all time, in my opinion. And at the same point, he just got back to the damn interviews, and that's what you want to grill him on. Now we're so thankful that we might have a chance to see him here. And hey, if not here, probably at some point. So that's good news.
I mean, you would expect if there was something negative that happened during that accident, it would be out by now.
Well, even if there was, why is the guy going to say that? He gave
someone would have opened
their
mouth, right? Yeah. Someone would have opened their mouth. I mean, if someone would have said something, it's not like they can keep something like this quiet for this long. It's not like Tiger's like a politician. It's not like he's Bill Clinton, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not going to be able to keep something like this hidden. If there was something really wrong, I think he was just tired. He's just going too fast. He's going too fast.
Yeah.
Who hasn't driven
Regardless
too
what
fast?
it was, the point is, the guy lived through it. We're very happy to have him back, and he makes the game better. That's the bottom line. So I'm excited. Hopefully he does show up to the Masters, and regardless of the result, that's what I'm saying. Just, this fact that you can see the guy back in action, that's incredible stuff.
Yeah, if he plays, I wouldn't count him out either. I remember last time I think it was like 2000 when he won the Masters. 2019, 2018. I remember I was on USA Today. I was in NBC Sports. I was on 670 The Score in Chicago, and every single time I was on some type of publication or radio show, I was like, there's no way Tiger's going to win.
Yeah.
And he won.
So
I'm not going to make that mistake. I am not going to make that mistake again and look like a fool. So if he gets in, I think he's got a shot. That's all I'm going to say when he gets in. A couple other things about the match play. One thing I'll add about Sunday, if it was Hovland, Morikawa, DJ Scheffler, probably more people would tune in. What do you think? I think the matchups play a big difference too.
They do for sure. I think that matters some. I'm just saying it's tough with just two matchups and one of them being a consolation thereafter at the end of it. Once you get to the end of the day, I'm saying, but you're right. That made me think of one last thing though, not to beat a dead horse here, but strategy from last week. I know you and Baroff talked about it. Everyone talked about it with the strategy. There was a potential earlier in the week that you could have had it where the Final Four was not affordable. Like you wouldn't have been able to fit value plays in. So there was a scenario where you could have had three guys in the Final Four at most, with like a McNeely who scored really well, but didn't get out of the first pool, things like that. So just something to take note of for next year. I know some built some lineups that way going in. We talked about it at the premium show over at Run Pure. I said the same thing. Like there was scenarios where those value plays would come into the mix, just the way the pod shook out. You have to keep an eye on it for next, but like it had Rahm up top. It had Morikawa and Hovland kind of had easy routes. JT, Scheffler, not all of them got out, I'm saying, but that was what made for the potential that it could have happened.
This was the first year in a while where the majority of the seeds that got through to the knockout phase were top seeds in their pot. So I mean, it's so hard to get that type of feel for match play in this type of situation because really anybody can win. These guys are, the talent levels, this far different from 1 to 64. It doesn't seem like a lot, but like in a stroke play event, that's a lot. But in a match play event, it's not a lot.
And anything could happen. Like just of note, final thing, but Scheffler versus Fitzpatrick, the playoff.
Yeah, he was going to lose.
It was a 13-foot birdie that missed by this much, and Scheffler's not even there, and he's not
even in there.
He's not number one. It was that close. And again, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, Vin Diesel style. It's winning's winning, but it's just the point of how quickly it could have changed on a dime. And we're not even talking about Scheffler right now. We're talking about somebody completely different.
Yeah. La Familia, Vince. What's his name? Vin Diesel.
Fast and Furious references, man. You gotta have them after what are they, 20 movies in now or something?
I'm a fan of those movies. They do what you need to be done. They're just action, stupid films that keep you entertained for a couple of hours. That's it. This weekend, Sunday, I actually did the Spider-Man, all 3 Spider-Man. Okay. I watched all those. Those are just fun watches. I mean, the thing is, I get it. And the Oscar, oh my God. Are we going to talk about what the fuck happened last night?
I figured it would come up.
You think it's fake. The Will Smith slapping the fuck out of Chris Rock. You think that was fake?
I said this is the best way to describe it, short and quick. Slap, real, event, staged. That's what I think. I think for so many reasons, but look, people say it's the dumbest take of all time. I don't even care that much. It was just what was public. But the bottom line was this. I never watched the Oscars. I don't even know what fucking movies are in the Oscars. I got no clue. I never watched it in like 10 years. Yeah. Since I was a kid, there was like a reason to stay up late and be able to watch it. And now all of a sudden, like 10 more million people tuned in. And I know it was late in the episode, but we're all still talking about it today. Who knows what they do with it next year? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't care. I just say,
here's what I'll say. If you want to get into the Oscars, watch Pat Mayo's Oscar show. The last couple of years, I have watched that show. And it's gotten me a little bit. It's gotten me a little bit more into the Oscars because of the betting angles. I didn't place any bets this year. I think last year I did, but the guy he has on is really super sharp. Some movie guy. I don't know.
They win a bunch of bets at it too because there is a solid market on the offshore and stuff for it. But let me just say this. Let me ask you this. If a man's walking up at you, I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy here. I don't fight. I'm not in many fights. I'm just saying, but I'm definitely not putting my hands behind my back and leaning into the thing like taking a slap to the face, and I'm most definitely retaliating. I don't care who, what, where, when. If that happens, you have to what do you do? He just sat there and took it. And it was like, he's the host. He has to chill.
The big thing, the one thing he said after the slap, and he sat down, was like, man, I could, and he stopped himself. The amount of jokes that he could have just went off on.
Did you know that Chris Rock has a brand new set starting up this week?
Well, here's the thing.
Here's
one thing. They've had beef before.
Chris Rock. I think it was 2016. Someone showed that as well. Like all these things. That's why I don't care enough. I'm just saying the things that seem really odd to me. And the best was whoever I retweeted it last night. Someone put together like the Jim Ross, WWE, Stone Cold, glass break music. Like that is what it was like. And the funniest part is he did like the weird slap. And then he did like the Vince McMahon, like strut walk off with like a smile on his face.
It was weird.
No worry of retaliation. I don't
think it was staged, but it was weird.
Maybe he just lost it, right? Maybe Will Smith just lost it.
It could have, that could have.
You know the stories about him and Jada and their open relationship, and whoever had the best tweet, it was like, man, Jada's gonna let Will watch so hard tonight. Like they got their own stuff. Like she can put whatever she wants in her mouth, but you can't put her name in your fucking mouth. Is what was said. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I don't care enough. That's the funny part. People are like, you want to die on this hill? I don't give a fuck. I just don't care. Like you still have time to delete this. No, I don't care. I'll talk about golf tomorrow, like you guys want. For tonight, I think it's fucked up, and we're moving on. So that's how I feel about it personally.
All right, so let's move to the listener league from the match play. Undercarder with a Fantasy Golf Insider. Love those guys over there. Good guys at fantasygolfinsider.com. They've been around a long time. I remember being on Mayo shows back in like 2016 with Jeff and all that stuff with those guys. So good guys over there, Fantasy Golf Insider. This guy's uses their avatars Carter, UND Carter. So maybe Notre Dame. I don't know. Carter, pretty impressive lineup. He had Scheffler, who was first. He had Connors, who was third. He had Kisner, who was second. He had Koepka, who was fifth. He had Power, who was seventh. This lineup was going to win a lot of money. I hope to God he put it in the GPP because this thing was 851 points. He beat second. His last guy was Henley, who finished in 60th. He beat the second place guy by 60 points. He beat the third place guy by 100 points. So yeah, what a lineup by Undercarter. You will be in our listener leagues or in our 3-man next week. What do you think of the lineup? I mean, what can you think? It's
and I know like you were busy in like a super or a Spider-Man trilogy on Sunday, but he did tag us and say to you when you tweeted out, because our listener league did not fill last week fully, but it didn't for a lot of people for the reason of match play. Some people just don't.
I don't think our listener league has ever filled during
that week. But anyway, he tweeted it out. He won, I think, like 20,000 more on this lineup, maybe more. Good. And he was like, "Thanks for the reminder, Kenny," because you basically your tweet. It sounds like your tweet of getting in the listener league made him think about like, oh, maybe I'll just enter it everywhere just because like I'm getting in that one. I might as well enter it.
I saw that. I didn't understand what he was saying.
So
hey, I take tips, bro. Come on now.
never
I'll send you the Venmo, man. Shit, I don't give a fuck.
I think it was great. I think it just speaks to the event, like what we talked about earlier with the strategy. Like you either got it or you don't. Like you can play as many angles as you want. You can build your lineups, quote unquote, correctly. Shout out to Skyhope DFS, our boy Skyler. He was putting out all the stats all week long. Love to see that. And it was just what it was. Like if you had to sort of have these guys that could get you there. And then you have to have like certain runouts. Like it's funny, Connor's lost the first matchup to have to play in the consolation, but then he gets to sort of run train in the consolation. So it's like you end up in a better spot, even though he didn't end up in the finals because they still count the score for that. So a little bit better, at least, or somewhat in that sense. And then, yeah, my boy Big T in fourth, like I said, he had a huge week. It was like 146,000, which with a couple tickets included in there. So stays hot over there for us at Run Pure. So I'll talk more about that later, but I think just an incredible thing to see.
Guys in Cubs Corner had a pretty good week. UFC and some in the golf as well. It was a solid week for a lot of people. I saw Dusty Bottoms in 8th place, one of our favorites with the
our boy,
the Chevy Chase 3 Amigos logo. Always a fan. Stewie up there from Twitter. In 12th place, so a lot of good guys up here.
OG in 13th, our boy LV Big Blue. So yeah, a bunch of guys actually were in the mix here. It's good to see for sure. Dusty Bottoms reached out as well. Solid week overall for him. So I think it was like $146 in and something like 7K out or something like that. So that was pretty solid as well.
All right, so let's get to this week. Golfers on the PGA Tour. They moved to Texas this week for the Valero Texas Open from TPC San Antonio. Texas Open, one of the oldest tournaments on tour. It's only been played at San Antonio since about 2010. It used to rank as one of the top 10 most difficult courses on tour. In the beginning of its time, it's sort of gotten a little bit easier the last couple of years. I think a lot of that has to do with moving to in front of the Masters. A lot of it's weather dependent as well. The course was designed by Greg Norman in 2009. Supposedly Norman was going through a divorce at the time. I don't remember. Chris Everett, maybe. I don't remember. So it's a long, difficult course that really, if the weather's pristine, it's not too hard. But the thing is, you usually see a good amount of wind. It is in Texas, and I think that's what makes the course a little bit more difficult. The par fives are especially long, most being close to 600 yards. The average score for the par fives here since 2010 is 4.9 strokes. So barely under par on all four of the par fours. Scoring's varied from -12 to -20 the last couple of years. Again, weather dependent. One of the biggest wave discrepancies in DFS history has happened on this course. 2015, there was almost a 5-stroke advantage, even more than the players in 2015. Players this past year, but even more than that in 2015 here. So something to pay attention to. As of now, the weather doesn't look too extreme. The winds don't look too extreme, but it is Monday. You never really know. Make sure you keep track and build your lineups late on Wednesday. Check that weather. See if there could be any wave possibilities with the possibility of wind. One tidbit, a lot of Australians tend to play well here. In interviews, many of them say TPC San Antonio reminds them, of course, is back in their home country. Makes sense. since Greg Norman, it did help design the course with a little help from Sergio Garcia. It's funny, Sergio's only played this one time, I think, and he missed a cut. Just something to think about with the Aussies. TPC San Antonio, 7,450 yard par 72, 4 par 4s, 4 par 3s. Only one of the par 5s are reachable by all. And again, that's wind dependent as well. And the thing about this course is what you see is a lot of times, like the longer holes, the prevailing wind is at the golfer's back. A lot of the shorter holes, the prevailing wind is in the golfer's face. So that sort of eliminates some of the bomber aspect of this course, because everyone's going to be able to pound it down there with that wind, and everyone's going to have trouble with that wind in their face. Off the tee, golfers are going to see tree line fairways that get more narrow the farther from the tee box the drive goes. Large bunkers in play. Native areas will be a big factor. Everyone remembers Kevin Na, his 16 here. On number 9 a few years ago. The native areas consist of desert, brush, trees, rocks. Golfers need to avoid these areas or get lucky when they do hit it there. Fairways are some of the toughest on tour to hit. Only around 56% of the tee shots land in the short grass. The rough used to be a bit thicker, and I think that's why it was a little bit tougher back in the day. But again, since it's moved the last couple of years to the week before the Masters, you've seen shorter rough trying to mimic Augusta National for the players who are playing next week. On approach shots, golfers are going to see average size greens, multi-tiered, lots of undulation. Like Augusta National, the edges around the greens are closely mowed, so many approach shots that just miss will either tricky up and down, so different collection areas or bunkers. Only around 57% of approach shots land on the green, so getting it up and down from off the green will be important, but it's not nearly as difficult as, say, Augusta next week. The greens are usually firm, stick meter rating around 11.5. But it's possible it could be a little bit speedier just because, they want to mimic Augusta as much as they can. Most tournaments have done this that have played the week before the Masters. I think the John Deere comes to mind. I think they used to play that before Augusta, and they always tried to mimic Augusta as much as they could. The grass used on the greens is Bermuda grass, but it is overseeded, bent, poa, and rye. What are you looking for this week in golfers, Tim?
Yeah, mostly, just ball strikers, full on tee to green, approach shots being key. There's some stats out there, like, if you're off the fairway, you're okay. It's just if you go way off the fairway, you talked about Kevin Na earlier, that's a prime example, then you're in big trouble. So, if you can put it out there a little bit, that's always nice. But I think the weather is one of the biggest factors, like you just talked about it. As of right now, if you look at like Wednesday, tons of wind gusts, like up to 30 across the entire day. When we get to Wednesday, though, let's look and see where it's at. Not trying to get on a weather tangent again, just saying, you mentioned there's anytime you're in Texas, and I even, reference this when we talk back at the players, when you're in Florida and you see weather, Texas with the winds, there's just all these opportunities where even if you don't know which side can have the advantage, you might want to just stack up a few of either side, because definitely a possibility that you could find your way through there. I just had it, I think, actually at the Corrales, the alternate event over this past weekend. I think it was like a 3-stroke advantage or something over one of the waves. So just little things like that you want to keep an eye on as you go throughout. Around the green game, obviously the greens aren't the easiest, but if to hit, but if you are going to get the winds up over the weekend as well or anything like that, you're going to want guys with good touch, good hands around the green. You mentioned the Aussies, maybe that comes through, right? They're usually pretty good around the greens and whatnot. So I think that's another thing to think about when we go through the players. Other than that, though, not much else from there. There's par 5s out there. Only, I think, one of them, maybe 2 are really gettable, but tough to say. The weather is going to control a lot here, as it usually does. And then, we got some thought process that we'll get into when we get into the players, Kenny, but like the week before the Masters, we're going to talk
motivation. How motivated are these guys, especially the top guys who already know?
Ricky Fowler wants to punch a ticket, and this is his only way, right?
And also, you got to think the other way, like what Rory, Decky, Spieth, Bryson. Are these guys going to go all out this week, or are they really just gearing up and trying to practice for next week? It's hard to judge that, and that's something we'll talk about when we get to these tiers up top. Sure. Before we get to the tiers, let's go ahead and pay some bills.
The teams have been fighting all season long to secure their shot at being crowned as champion. Just as the teams are in pursuit of glory, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving their new customers a shot at royalty with 40-1 odds on any college basketball game. That's bet $5 on any college basketball team to win their next game, and if they win, DraftKings will pay out $200 in free bets. DraftKings Sportsbook has nearly endless ways to get in on the action, from same-game parlays to future betting. Feel the sweat with DraftKings now. Don't worry if you've already taken advantage of this offer. There are still plenty of ways to get in on the hoops action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. DraftKings offers nearly endless opportunities to make it rain with their daily fantasy contests, which have millions of dollars up for grabs every week. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code FGD, throw down just $5 on the college basketball game of your choice, and get $200 in free bets if the team you choose wins. That's code FGD at DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right, so let's start off in this 10K range. We got Bryson at 10-2 all the way up to Rory at 11-2. How are you going about this? I have my own theories on how I'm going to go about it, especially in cash. But I want to hear, what are your thoughts on this top range of these guys that we know are going to play in the Masters next week? And we know they have a pretty good chance of winning, better than anyone else in this field. They all, I bet you 4 out of the 5. Maybe you take answer out of it. When we look at them, we think, yeah, they can win the Masters. What are you going? How are you going about this?
Yeah, I don't think Bryson can win the Masters. I'll say that. I think he can win a major, another major, but I don't think it'll be the Masters. The guy just is too much for that course. But we'll see. Either way, I think I'll definitely build some lineups where I just fade this area completely. I think that's one of the things you mentioned earlier. It's not a secret that sometimes these guys are working on their game. They're testing different shots out because they want to win the Masters. Do they want to win every tournament? Sure. But at the same time, if things don't go their way completely, there's opportunity just to move on. And I think that's what you could see here. It still is hard to get away from some of these guys at the top. Like Rory looks really good. And here's the thing, Rory and Spieth, I like Rory a lot more, but I'll just say this, like it just almost feels like from playing this game for so long, Kenny, that you're going to just see either Rory crush and then we restart Rory's going to get the Grand Slam and that pumps his ownership up for next week, or vice versa. I don't think we see both, or Spieth crushes. And then you end up seeing it where now it's, we know he already has the course history, crushes the Masters. He's going to be back. He's going to win it again. All these other factors. So I think those two will be talked about the most. Decky, don't forget what happened last time he was supposed to play. I'll say it that way. Remember the players withdraw after lock, burned a bunch of people. He's well over 10K. I don't see him being super popular here, but I think he's got the approach game. He's got the all around game. He's already won a Masters. Not that he doesn't want to win it again. The point being, if he can go out and just win a tournament, feels like a good GPP play here in Hideki. And then even Answer stands out to me a little bit just because, like you said, I don't think it doesn't feel like he can win the Masters, but he was interviewed last week after he played so well. A match play is a completely different beast, but you still have to have your A game to move on and beat these guys and carry on through. Looked pretty damn good. And he was interviewed saying just loves the Texas atmosphere, reminds him of Mexico. Great fans, great people, get out there in that hot weather, all those factors. So I think Answer, Hideki are interesting GPP plays. Rory, best play in the booth. But like I said, at the same time, I will build some lineups where I just fade this area completely. I might even build some lineups where I fade this area completely and leave $1,000 on the table, with the theory being that most people that leave the money you still have an expensive guy and lose down below. I'd rather lose up high. So I'll do it like that and start in the 9K range and then still leave money on the table just to be different in that way.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to cash in this type of field that's this top heavy, normally I would be going 2 guys up here. That's the way I've been going, like in a field like this where the 10K guys are so much more talent and win equity than anyone else under them. I would normally go 2 of these guys in cash. I just can't do it because I don't know how. Like I said, I don't know what their motivation is going to be this week. And like you said, it's always they always want to win, but I'm just not 100% sure. There's so many question marks. Rory has next week on his mind, the Grand Slam. To get that win finally at Augusta. Hideki's coming off an injury. Spieth and Answer, those 2 guys, I could see them maybe not caring as much and trying to go out there and win because, I mean, their game hasn't been as strong as it could. And then Bryson, I don't know if this course favors him. It could. It's long. If he hits the driver a lot and does, but the thing is, like his misses last week are pretty wild misses, and he's coming off injury as well. So there's so many question marks. I think the 2 guys that I like are Spieth and Answer. That I will play in GPPs. Now, the funny thing is, what do you think the ownership is going to be? I think a lot of people are thinking like me. They don't know if these guys have the motivation factor. Could you get a Rory at like 10%? Could you get a Bryson at like 10%? Would that change your thought process on these guys a little bit more? If you would go on Wednesday and you go to, Gups Corner, Run Pure, Fantasy National, and look at the ownerships, and you see these guys 9 to 10% who are so highly above the rest because everyone's worried about their motivation. Do you take that risk?
I'll say this. I think this is way more of a week where I'll ignore it completely at the top. But what I will say with that being in this sense is that I think this is a huge week also to look at your overall construction, not just total ownership percentage like everyone talks about. I'm saying more so, I feel like this event is kind of sucked in between the match play, which crushed some players. I'm talking about DFS players, and the Masters, which everyone's excited for, saving their bankroll for, whatever it might be, where we end up seeing almost like one of those alternate field events or Corn Ferry Tour type of events where it's like all the ownership gets really condensed. And we'll talk about as we go through, like Corey Connors, Chris Kirk, Patton Kazire, like all these dudes, are going to be the highest owned guys going in. It's really a good week just to make some moves in that sense. So if you want to play Rory up top, don't worry about it if he does show up at 22% come Wednesday evening. Worry about what are you doing with the rest, because people that are playing him are probably playing at least two of Kirk, Kazire, and then whoever we get to when we get to the 7K range or down low. So I'll look at it more from overall roster construction than picking my spot based on one being 20 and one being 10 up top. I was going to ask you this. What do you want to happen up top? Because just knowing this, we are 1 week away from the Masters. Like I said, Cam Smith and Scheffler, no matter how much people try and talk themselves out of it, should be extremely popular next week at the Masters based on their betting odds, where they kind of have to get priced, or you'd imagine they get priced when DraftKings puts it out. Do you want, Spieth to suck here and then hope that maybe you can get him lower owned next week as a pivot? Do you want, and probably won't even, but I'm just saying, like, what would you like?
People are too smart now. People are too smart about that.
That's what I was going to say. It might not matter, but the Rory and Spieth happening here will affect something for next week. It's just going to be a conversation. So I wasn't sure if you had a preference.
I think Spieth will be highly owned. I mean, I don't think he's going to be that highly priced. I don't know. What do you think? Spieth next week, like 9,500?
I would guess something there. Yeah, it's a good starting point.
Yeah, the Cam around 90, around that price as well. I mean, those two seem like locks in cash, really, if it's going to be around that price. Scheffler, I think, is going to actually be extremely high price now.
I do think now that they waited on the pricing, they're going to adjust it a lot more for sure.
I think he'll be close to 11K. You would think he would be one of the top 2 or 3 highest priced golfers there. But yeah, I don't know.
If they do that, he should be much lower owned. And what's funny is that, people are expecting like 9,400 Scheffler, and it's just too late for that. So if he does come in at like 10.7, I wonder if people would actually do that when you're going to be able to talk yourself into Rahm, Rory, bunch of other guys. DJ,
yeah, what if you have DJ at like 10.4 and Scheffler at 10.7?
That's what I'm saying. So it might surprise you, and it might surprise people that Scheffler maybe doesn't end up that high owned based on people love to fade a guy off like 3 wins recently too. Just we'll save him for another time. And so you never know what's going to happen just yet. But
there's going to be some shocking prices because, when it comes to the Masters, it's always soft type pricing. And so something's going to be weird, and we're going to see it, and we're going to play it. And like we've seen it before, what Connors, Kisner, a couple of years ago, all those things. We're going to see something like that happen. Yeah. And they're just going to be, and then, do you risk the fade? I mean, it hasn't really worked on those type of golfers in the last couple of years of the Masters. But anyways, we're ahead of ourselves. We will be recording the Masters show a day early next week. It will be on Sunday night to give you guys an extra day to listen. And also I have to work nights the following week. So we are going to do it Sunday night. All right. So let's get to this 9K range. I'll go ahead and start. My 3 cash game cornerstones are 3 of my cash game cornerstones are going to be in this 9K. They're going to be Maverick McNeely, Chris Kirk, and Gary Woodland. McNeely, of course, we saw what he's done at the match play. He's made 11 of his 12 cuts this year. The game seems really strong. Top 10 in birdies or better game. Top 5 in DraftKings points, both in the last 50 rounds in this field. If the weather's not bad and it seems okay, I think he'd go out. I think he's close to a win. The game is there. I think he's close to winning. Another guy who's close to a win is going to be Gary Woodland. I take away the players. Players, I wouldn't even look at that and see, but he's at like 21st and a couple of top 10s prior to that. His game is trending upwards. It looks like he's back to where he needs to be. Again, his DraftKings points, very, very strong. Iron play, pretty damn good. So I'm going to go Woodland again. And then Chris Kirk, really good at this course. Again, you can eliminate the players from his recent form, and he's been doing pretty well. You get these guys in this low 9K range, knock out all three. They're all going to be motivated to win. There is no, I'm just going to take it off easy and save myself for the Masters for these three golfers, because they all have something to prove. They all have to get their games in better shape before they go into next week. Those three guys right there are going to be in my cash game cornerstones. Outside of that, I'm not really sure what to do. Siwoo just seems so expensive. And then Corey Connors is coming off the players and grueling 7 matches at the match play. Finau, who I think we can get behind a little bit just because we saw his game pick up a little bit. And then Jason Day, wild card again. I'm not sure where I'm going with those other guys. Finau interests me. What about you?
Yeah, Finau is a little bit interesting for sure. Like you said, just in the sense that, 9,100 feels like everyone's done with them. There's, a spot you can go there. Who's going to be popular? You said it already, probably for good reason, but Connors. Connors, though, the thing is, like you said, what he comes off of, I don't know if that's going to make people go off him or not, but when you rate out all the numbers, the stats, he obviously won here. He won the Monday Q, got into this event, and then shipped the event. Remember that. So, I mean, there's a history there, everything that you could go with it. But I think the pivots are like, playing someone like Keegan Bradley, Tony Finau. Like Keegan Bradley, what was he? 5th at the Players, 11th at the Arnold Palmer. You go back, look at that. He's been playing some good golf, and 9,200 is kind of expensive. But I always talk about this, but pay up for probability, right? Yeah, it doesn't feel good paying that price tag. Feels expensive. But if you're going to be different in this range when people are playing Connors, McNeely, Kirk, and Woodland, then you've got Finau and Bradley right at the bottom. So I actually don't really have a problem with that. I'm not sure I'm not really high on Jason Day here, but I do like those other two guys at the bottom. And then, like I said, just from a roster construction range, like I think people will build Connors, Kirk, Kazire. Like that's your lineups that you'll see, like a balanced type build. And in something like a main or a cash game or something like that, I can totally understand it. But at least in the large field stuff, I'm going to try and avoid that for the most part.
All right, so let's get to this 8K range, Tambo. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more tournament plays in here. I think because just naturally what I just said, if even the guys at the top are still going to get played, regardless what their ownership ends up, the Rorys, the Hidekis, the case will be made for other guys up there that we talked about, Spieth or Answer, whatever it might be. It is going to space it out some. And then a lot of those 9K guys are getting the love. So if you drop down to the 8K range, like Streelman, Vegas, List, Hadwin, Riley, this is all the guys at the top. That's where I'm going to try and focus. And I named them all, but it's because the bottom is going to be popular. Kazire, Mito, those are the guys. Charlie Hoffman. This is like where he makes his hay every year. This is his yearly paycheck, like Kisner just picked up at the match play. So you know who's going to be played in this range. It's going to be the guys at the bottom. So I'm going to focus more on the top. Adam Hadwin has showed some upside. I like that about him. Kevin Streelman, course history guy, but also can play. I don't think he's going to win, but at 8,700 doesn't have to go out and do that. So I like him. And then Vegas, I think he can win. I think it's a tournament you could see Johnny Vegas go out and get a W. He played really well at the Corrales last week. He's priced down because the field's different, but still 8,600 is a fair price. And then almost like the books are done with Luke List. I know Mayo tweeted that out this morning and showed 80-1. He's already down to 60. Others hopped on that and said, let me get that number then if that's the case. And Luke List at just 8,500, I think, again, another one guy that could go out and win at 8,500. So Vegas and List, probably the two I like most, Hadwin and Streelman above them. And then if people aren't going to go back to Riley just because of the price increase, I think that's crazy. I mean, all the narratives aside with the 2020 Corn Ferry Tour event, I know everyone's talking about that today with Paul Barjon, having a T2, and Pendrith we wanted to play because of that. Smotherman played well there. All these guys that are in the field, even Ben Martin, who we'll talk about later, came second last week in the Corrales, came ninth at that event back in 2020. But that's more of a entertainment or a thing that we're just going to talk about because we're doing content on a show. It's just a tidbit or a nugget. They're not going to get ownership because of that. Like Paul Barjon is not going to come in at 5% or 10% ownership this week. There's just no way. But Davis Riley, it just proved it. And if you didn't know already how good of a golfer he was, now you found out. He definitely could have won that event. He was going against another guy who's not the same trajectory as Scotty Scheffler right now, but Sam Burns, by the way, I wasn't on that show last week, looking pretty damn good overall over this past, whatever monkeys he had to get off his back, he did as well. And the floodgates have opened up for him too.
Yeah,
so
the monkey needs to get off his back. He needs to do better in majors. So
right.
we'll see. We'll see how that goes with Burns. I mean, that
Absolutely.
could keep his ownership down next week as well, because everyone looks at his major history and like, not great. He's a different golfer now.
I think so too. And that's what I would say there for that. I love that take that you just had. And I think that's the situation with Davis Riley. Like, everyone wants to make fun of the Korn Ferry Tour guys all year long when we're talking about Chad Ramey. Oh, what happened? Just won last week. We got now Davis Riley right there in the mix, could have won that tournament very easily. So made a little mistake, that triple bogey that ended up really costing him. But just to say, like, right here, this guy is in good form. He's playing good golf. He was doing whatever he wanted with the golf ball that weekend. He made one pretty bad mistake early on in that final round, recovered from it, still got to the playoff, put a shot in the same spot that Burns did. Burns just walked up and made the putt. So it is what it is. I think Davis Riley, again, will go overlooked because the price increase and the fact that people just don't want to go back to a guy like that here in the roster construction sets them up on such a different path that they avoid the upper 8K range.
Yeah, I'm with you on Riley. And, Hoffman, of course, is a course history guy. But if you want to play another course history guy in the 8K, whose form hasn't been that great, but his form here is pretty damn good, Ryan Palmer. He did have 3 top 10s here. Last time he played, he was 17th. He's only missed 1 cut in his last, 5-6 times playing here. Texas guy, Texas wind. I doubt his ownership will be that high. So if you want to pivot off the course history of Hoffman, you could probably go to Palmer. Because like you said, I think Hoffman, Mito, Kazai are going to be highly owned. You can go Palmer for even cheaper than them. And I like your Riley call a lot. I'll probably play lists as well, just because of the way he fits my model that I'm looking at right now. All right.
I do like the Palmer call quite a bit, just because, like you said, those 3 guys above him should gain a little bit more ownership. Yeah. And guys that do well in Texas or have any Texas ties and stuff like that, usually that's another thing that stands true in Texas. We talk about it all the time, and it's just a good little play there at the bottom if you are going to the bottom of the 8K range.
Yeah, in this top 7K range, I like a couple of the old guys. Kuchar, again, another course history guy who's coming off a pretty decent finish the last time he was out. Ian Poulter, another guy who we've seen him do well, not necessarily at this event, but events prior to the Masters, right? Isn't that the one where you won your big one, right? Was it right before the Masters? Was Ian Poulter winning that one?
Yeah. You're stealing my thunder because I was going to bring up Ricky Fowler in a minute for this situation, but that was a guy that needed to punch his ticket to get to the Masters, use that motivation, made that putt on 18 over Bo Hostler, a guy we'll talk about later, I'm sure, and got his ticket punched into the Masters. I think there's some guys like that here.
And the thing is, his numbers look pretty good. I mean, par 4 scoring is pretty important at this course, just because of how difficult the par 5s are. And so you're not going to get all your scoring from the par 5s. You got to, do your thing on the par 4s. He's top 10 in par 4 strokes gained par 4 in the field in the last 50 rounds. This is Ian Poulter. Really good around the green too. I think he makes for a good play, a GPP play. I like Poulter a lot. I like Kuchar a lot for cash, just because he doesn't miss cuts here and is coming off a really good finish. And then I like KH Lee a little bit. Another TPC course. TPC Lee, where we're here, a couple of really strong finishes here. It's in Texas. The majority of the Korean population, a lot of the Koreans live in the Texas area, in the Houston area. Most of them, I think, the ones that don't are like Siwoo, or not Siwoo. Siwoo lives in Houston. Sung Kang lives there, who I like as a cheap play later on. I'm pretty sure KHC lives there as well. Sung Jae is the one that doesn't. He lives in Atlanta now. But they have that. They play those Texas type courses. They deal with that wind. So I don't mind playing Koreans this week. So I like KH Lee also. Who do you like in this top range?
Yeah, I think you brought up some good points there. There's a lot of guys actually. TPC Lee, like you mentioned, that's a good call. Just in the Doug Gim, University of Texas. I think he's there's a lot of guys at this spot. And again, it just goes with my theme from before. If you're willing to get off those 9K guys for some of the upper 8K, you can land here to round out and get into this range. And I think instead of Kazai, Mito, Hoffman, all those dudes. And I think Thigala has proven just to be a real talent that's out there. Don't care the course, don't care the spot, 7,800. I like him. I like the Poulter call. You mentioned a veteran, plays well in Texas, good around the greens, all those factors. KH Lee, Steele, Doug Gim, mentioned them. And then even the 7,500 guys like McCarthy, Griffin, and Laird, you can sprinkle them in too. But Ricky, this is like the Ben Raza tweet, like guys I'm playing who you shouldn't. This is how I'm thinking of it. And Ricky, I know it hasn't been great, but he's got nothing to lose. Like there's nothing for him to leave this week for and get ready for. He doesn't have a ticket. So I think for him to go out here and try and find a W, maybe not, but at 7,700, if that motivation plays a huge factor and he just makes the cut and rides his way up the leaderboard, and I could see it being a storyline come Sunday. He's been bad, but he's been making all the cuts. Like I think, what is he now? 4 cuts in a row or something. Again, not able to find what he needs to, but some of the factors here should play. He's good in wind. We know that. He can putt well. He has a good around the green game. He has all these factors. Just will he put them together? So like I said, guys I'm playing that you probably shouldn't, but I will lump Ricky Fowler in there as well in a few lineups. So
I will say for Ricky, last time he played at Arnold Palmer was the best approach week he's had in almost a year. Gaining 3.5 strokes with the approaches. He is top 20 in this field from 150 to 175 and 175 to 200, which is where the majority of all the approaches are going to be from. So I could see him. I could see that. And I don't hate that play.
And in 2 top 20s, 2 in the last 3 years. I was going to add that. I forgot. And if you think like these times that he played it, that he hasn't had a great game recently. We're not talking about like he just lost his game a few months ago. He's been bad for a while. So it's kind of like how even during Spieth's stretch of playing poor golf, he still showed up at Augusta. He still showed up at those places. Like if you can get a 17th at a Ricky here at 7,700, I think you're in good shape. So he's not my favorite play of the week. I'm just saying that's why I'll go to a guy like that. And I like the motivation factor for a guy like him, even though it fits the narrative of many other guys within the field.
All right. So my final cash game cornerstone is going to be Matthew Naismith at 7,100. I had a hard time. It was Kramer Hickok or Matthew Naismith. I'm going with Naismith after his nice little run. The last time he played, his iron game is incredibly strong. Top 15 in my model. So I'm just going model based for him. I think he made the cut here last year, finishing in the top 40. So I'm going to go with him as my punt play this week. So my cash game cornerstones this week are going to be Maverick McNeely at 9,500, Chris Kirk at 9,400, Gary Woodland at 9,300, and Matthew Naismith at 7,100. It still leaves you like 14,700, somewhere around there to finish out the rest of your lineup. Other guys I do like, Fratelli, another Texas guy that I think could do well here. I also like Hickok. Like I said, I'll play him in GPPs. Matt Jones is someone that sticks out to me. Another Aussie guy, really good around the green if the wind picks up. Like you said earlier, he's one of the best around the green in this field. And Big Bo Hostler, another Texas guy, another guy used to the wind, good putter. And he's been making a shit ton of birdies, lots of DraftKings points, really strong around the greens. So there's a lot of guys to play in this bottom 7K range, even though you look at the field and it's not that great. We know that that's a little bit different because we know these golfers. We know that what they can do. There's a little bit of strength down here in the lower 7K range, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the others, just to add, like Troy Merritt. Now he had the ownership, came through. Everyone's the worst play of all time. Guy crushed for 3 rounds, won me a lot of money that week, and did not come through in the 4th round. But I just think it was too cheap of a price at like 6,600 at the Valspar. But he's been playing good golf otherwise, and I think he's another guy you see play well in the wind, play well if it does have some scoring and stuff like that too. So I like Troy Merritt. I like Brian Stewart. Talk about a solid approach game, and he played pretty well at the Corrales. Alex Smalley, another guy. Again, we keep talking about these Corn Ferry Tour guys as people make fun of them. Chad Ramey won the event last week. Smalley tried to win the event last week. They were both right there. Different altogether. It's not the same, but just an example. The 25 that came off the Corn Ferry Tour last year are just of another level. Like these guys are all ready to win. They're finding ways to move their way up the board and give themselves chances, and it showed out. So I like them still here. And then all the Texas guys you mentioned, like Fratelli, Hickok, Hostler. I said it would come up later. Of course, I think Hostler's a great play here down at 7,000. And Matt Jones is the one that it feels like he's going to pop for everyone, but no one's going to actually play him, right? So you see him in the models, you see him on Data Golf, you see him in all these places where he's going to pop for projection or whatever you want to call it, where people are looking at it like, why? Decent history, but more so just like the game, like you said, can get on with the approach game, has a good around the green game. All those factors. Not, Schwab is there too. There's a couple of guys you could play instead if he does get popular. But I just think this range has a few guys that you can roll out here, no problem. What are you doing in there?
I didn't see that because I have Matt Jones ranked 95th in my model. Sometimes you just have to go against the model and go with feel. So I don't know. Maybe I'm making my models wrong. I don't know what's going on there. So if he's popular, that'll be shocking to me.
Yeah, good on Bermuda, just little things like that.
It's not really Bermuda though, is it? Right?
No, I'm just saying just in general stuff that you're going to see when you're looking at the Fantasy Nationals. So
yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to the 6K range. A couple of guys. I like Lipsky. He's had some good showings here in the past, not here, but in the past few month or so. He's had a couple of decent finishes. I really like JJ Spawn. Again, lots of birdies. His approach game was average, but he's been making up for it in other places. Really good top 25 from 150 to 175, 175 to 200. I like Spawn. I like Svensson a lot. He's second from 150 to 175 and sixth from 175 to 200 in the last 50 rounds. Seventh in approach. I like Svensson a lot down here. Other guys, Ben Martin, like you were saying, Andrew Novak, somebody who played well last week, who 2% owned probably when you get down to it. And then who do you like in this range?
Yeah, a lot of the guys at the top we like the same. Lipsky was definitely on the list. Again, it played well last week, so I'm beyond that. But Svensson was the guy that stood out, all the Canada jokes aside. But I said, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, and it brings up two thoughts. One, just the guy, it's like a mini Corey Connors. So the Canadian jokes aside, like I said, but he hits it to 10 feet. You got to see if he makes the putts. But the funny side of it for me was when we brought this up, I think it was a few shows back, about Ted Scott going to Scotty Scheffler and how a lot of the success, like I think the joke yesterday was Ted Scott's made more money off that $7 million that Scheffler's made than Bubba has made this season. Obviously him being the former caddy of Bubba Watson. But remember, Svensson picked up Tim Tucker, which was Bryson's old caddy. And it just speaks to talent level. Like these caddies are wanting to hop on a talented bag so they can get paid as well. And it's a good combination. And Ted Scott was with Svensson, but left because of Scotty Scheffler. So it's like, why wouldn't he take off to the next guy when he's not saying he's bad? So I just think Svensson's underpriced for that reason. Like not just the caddy factor. He's played well. All the recent form, the fact of his approach.
His iron game is so good.
So good. That's what I'm saying. When we're looking for guys down here, it's more about, it's not just, I say this all the time. Everyone's, if he just makes the cut, I'm happy. Well, no, if he makes the cut and comes 60th and the dude right below him, JJ Spawn, makes the cut and comes 5th, it wasn't good enough. You didn't just need a made cut. You needed JJ Spawn. That's why you see a 6-6 and you're down 50 points because Spawn crushed and he didn't. So I like Spawn with you. I'm just saying Svensson has real upside to me. A couple other guys, I mentioned Kevin Chappell today. Again, showed out a little bit last week at the Corrales. He's been showing the game a little bit here and there as of late in spurts. And then he's a former champion here, all those factors. Buckley, people might chase because he did really well on Sunday last week. But Tyler Duncan is another guy I like down here. Again, we used to play guys like Cam Davis in this spot and say the reason we're playing him is we know there's big risk. But if he makes the cut, that scoring upside that he provides you on DraftKings is what we want. So all we're looking for is a made cut with him because he could come 40th, but still finish 25th in scoring. So I'll take the risk on Tyler Duncan. Anybody else? Your boy Luke Donald, maybe he was popping a little bit.
I saw
Ben Martin.
Ben Martin. Ben Martin makes sense after a pretty good performance last week. I like Sun Kang a lot. He can get hot with his putter, and he's used to playing in these Texas winds. Like I said, no one's going to be on him. 1% or less would be my guess. I sort of like him. Nick Watney is a guy that our man Martin Sundog Monkey is always a big fan of, so I can always tail him on that. He's been doing pretty good. I think he's made like 5 of his last 6 cuts, which isn't half bad. And I'll probably go in that range. Anybody else down here?
Well, just going to ask you to round it out the bottom range. So like Guido, 6,100. Paul Barjon, 6,100. Peter Uline, late ad. They put him at the stone minimum. The guy just lost in a Corn Ferry playoff like a couple weeks ago. Obviously, his game's a little bit more in line. So I don't know what your thoughts are here, but I feel like you could see, some lineups that look pretty good if you want to take the risk and go to these guys down here. I just don't know if you need to. What are your thoughts on these guys?
Uline makes sense. I actually used him as a one and done in Corrales last week, and that did not work very well. I can get down with Uline. I mean, Martin Trainer finished top 10 here a couple years ago, right? I mean, like, it's not like it's impossible for these guys to do something. But I mean, I don't know. Barjon, I like, and Sun Kang and Watney. That's probably where I'll go in this bottom range.
Trainer, I just saw too. I was looking it up. I know he's been playing good golf lately, but another T7 last week. So
yeah, I mean, it's stone minimum, Yeah, and they had to play through some wind, I think, as well.
They did. That's what I said. There was definitely a wave advantage last week, and he obviously got through on it. And then, 69, 70, 67, 69. It's not a bad week over there. So never know. Like, that's what I'm saying. I just think it'll be interesting to see what people do with this range, because that's what I'm saying too, Kenny, earlier with the strategy, where if you're going with a guy down here, if people start with Martin trainers, let's say they listen and say, okay, I'll play trainer based on what you guys just said, they likely go right up to like Rory or Hideki and then do it that way. I'm saying like just round it out and don't even use a 5-figure guy and just leave the money on the table if you're doing that and just see how it goes. Because most people will spend that money up. You end up with a different construction where most lineups that have a trainer in it, or whoever you choose down there, probably have a top guy. And if it's the wrong top guy all of them just don't come through because of the Masters or whatever else it might be, just bad play, lots of play recently like Connors, all these factors, you could end up with a different construction that way as well.
All right, so let's get to our bets for the week. I'll go ahead and go first. I'm actually adding one more as unknown era. I don't even know what that means. Come on, help me out here.
Who are you adding?
Svensson. Plus
200.
Plus 200 to 1 for Svensson. So my bets this week, they're going to be Gary Woodland at 30 to 1. Maverick McNeely at 35 to 1. I'm going to throw Charlie Hoffman out there at 75 to 1 since this is his course. And then we're going just bombs after that. I'm going to go Lucas Glover at 130 to 1. Kramer Hickok, 150 to 1. JJ Spawn, 110 to 1. Svensson at 200 to 1. And Watney at 300 to 1. So I think it's like 7 bets, but the majority are going to be over 100 to 1 on that. Lots of bombs for me this week.
The big bombs allow for a lot more play too. So I
yes,
like that.
Do.
I got all these guys. So I got Kirk at 60. I got these first thing this morning right away, and most of the numbers have changed by now, but I'm happy with these numbers. Vegas at 60, Patton Kazire 75, Brendan Steele at 100. And then my sprinkles on my bombs were Kevin Chappell, 225. Tweeted it out there. I probably don't really believe in it, but I tried it anyway. And then Paul Barjon, just because the conversation around that event, again, not going to do much with this guy this week, but at 500 to 1, take a little sprinkle for, I have top 5 each way on all of them. So I'm happy with the top 5 each way there.
Yeah. For one and done, I think I'm going to go Mav.
Yeah. I had a question mark by him. One thing I was going to add though, this is, again, you're taking on some risk here, but the strategy of Rory or Spieth the week before the Masters, where they're usually much more popular because of their past, their history, the career Grand Slam for Rory, all those factors. You're doing it in reverse. You could wait for them to potentially fail, or at least one of them will, and then use them a different time. But I just think using them now could be unique. Hoffman should be pretty popular too, because people want to use them at the course he crushes. But I like your Mav call. That's who I had down with a question mark beside it. See what your thoughts were. So I'm in on Mav as well.
All right. That sounds good, man. Anything else?
No, it's good to be back.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find my article at gupscorner.com. The article should be out here shortly. On Wednesday, I will have my final betting card, my favorite single GPP play in each price range. And if there's any adjustments to my cash game cornerstones, it'll be Wednesday at gupscorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership.
Yeah, and you guys know I'm back. You can find me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. Been doing a lot more stuff on there. I got 5 tickets so far that I'm giving away for the $100 Millie Maker in a week from now. And this week, Tambo's Tidbits, the thread that I've been doing with all the free stuff across the industry, will be out again.
That's been good shit. That's been good shit.
I like that. I think it's good for people. I know like not everyone has the same amount of time. I'm just curating it as the week goes on, put it all in one spot, recognize some of the great content that's out there. I love doing that. That's what guys like Mayo did for me and things like that across the industry. So it feels good to do that. And then, just fun. If you retweet the main thread, you go in the draw. I've already got the 5 winners picked for the first 5 tickets based on the last 2 weeks. Going to give away hopefully 5 more. If we can get 500 retweets, it's aggressive, but I think it can be done. So look out for that. Then back to regular content, Kenny. So this week I'm in the booth with Mayo on Wednesday again. for the live show chat, which is free. You guys go over to, just subscribe to this channel, Mayo Media Network. You'll get that on Wednesday. Going to do a bunch of Masters content next week, I know for a fact. So I think it's him, myself, and Raza. Again, we'll go on and do the Masters show. So a lot more content coming out there. And then, of course, Run Pure Sports. Talked about it. Just absolutely crushing golf right now. It's one price, man. One price, all the sports. I know other sites are announcing new things with new promos, with add-ons. This is everything under one roof for one price. So check us out, runpuresports.com.
All right, guys, 1 week to the Masters. Will Tiger play? Does anyone really care about the Valero? We do, because we're degenerates. So let's win some motherfucking money. Degen Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up.